Well, today we have an awesome guest. His name is Tom, and he's got YouTube as his main platform, which he's grown to over 1 million subscribers and over 270 million views, as well as over 200,000 followers on both Instagram and Twitter, which is very impressive to build a community like that. So I appreciate you coming on the show with us today.
Yeah, it's good to be here. I'm excited to get into what is going to be, I think, quite an intense podcast from the preview that you've given me, but I'm excited. So
awesome. Well, can you give us a quick elevator pitch about what your platform's all about?
Yeah, so my name's Tom. I go under the alias Capgun Tom on YouTube. I've been doing this since, I think, 2012. The game, well, I'm a gaming YouTuber. The game I play is FIFA. Unfortunately, it's a bit of a roller coaster of a platform to play on because from year to year it changes quite a bit, even though it's the same basis, it changes every single year. But I've been doing it since 2012. Never really started in any way to sort of build an audience. In fact, I think when I started, it wasn't really even known widely that you could make money on YouTube. I think there were a few people out there that were doing it, but not the sort of level of people that we see now. Anyway, I just started doing it for fun, teaching people how to play the game, how to make money on Ultimate Team, which is one of the game modes. And then before I knew it, the whole channel had started blowing up. And then I find myself, 8 years down the line, and, here I am on your podcast. So,
all right. So before we dive into the rest of the podcast, do you mind sharing an unintended consequence with us? Like maybe somebody you've impacted in a way you didn't expect as a result of your FIFA influence?
Yeah, I mean, as someone who I've always said that I see myself as that guy who was just playing FIFA in his bedroom, posted a couple of videos and kind of got swept up on it. And ever since I started doing that, that's all I've ever thought that I was. So obviously, once you open yourself up to an audience, then people start like relating to you. And I have had situations where, I've had to deal with some stuff that I personally wasn't really trained for or expecting to ever have to come across, like mental health issues, etc. There's been cases where, people have come to me and have been talking about really, really serious issues. As someone who is the guy who plays FIFA, that I found it very difficult for myself to deal with. And I actually had to go out and sort of just find external people to talk to about issues that I was having with people online, and how I could help them and how I could best advise them without, obviously, with mental health, it's a very, very difficult subject for someone who's not trained in it to give advice in. Obviously, this person trusting me wanted my personal opinion, so obviously I had to give him something. Thankfully, I gave him some advice. He went away and got help, and actually he's now in a much, much better place. So very happy about that.
And that's definitely something that you probably didn't think going into it, that you're creating videos on FIFA and now you're helping this guy to go through this. Yeah,
exactly. And I mean, it's kind of scary because obviously, as someone who is not trained in that field, to put a toe wrong could have serious impacts on that person's life. That's just something I never thought that would go with this. But obviously, as YouTubers have become more like people that people relate to, rather than just that person they watch on an afternoon after school. They want more and more interaction, and it sort of led to this situation where people interact very closely with those they're watching.
Awesome. So you started back in 2012, and you started just by posting some how-to videos and how to play FIFA and some things around that. So why did you start posting those videos? What prompted you just to begin?
Okay, so I can even go further back than that. So the first ever YouTube video I think I posted was 2009. I was just in my room playing Call of Duty all the time. Call of Duty 4 was the game I was playing. I could not stop playing it. I effectively got so good at that game that I needed a way to show off. And I was doing stuff that people would no, you weren't. No, you haven't done that, blah, blah, blah. And I needed a medium to be able to show them. So I started recording what I was doing, made small montages and clips out of it, and then I uploaded them to YouTube. And some of those videos did actually really well, considering I think I had maybe 200, 300 subscribers or something. They were getting 60, 70,000 views. It was quite a mind-blowing thing. But at the time, I didn't really recognize the impact of that. I actually went off to university. I did computer science, games technology, because I just love computer games. And in my third year at university, I think this was like probably late 2011, I started getting very much into FIFA, learning how to play it. I saw other creators making videos around FIFA, and I was like, you know what? I think I could do this. So I started posting up a couple different videos. I put some Call of Duty videos. Yeah, you found them.
So here's some of your old Call of Duty.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of them had to get delisted because they were all copyright music, because, you know, you probably had absolutely no idea that copyright was even a thing back then. But I ended up just playing around with Call of Duty, and then I moved to FIFA, and I was just kind of doing both simultaneously. I put up a couple of tutorials on how to make money on FIFA in like the Ultimate Team game mode, and then those videos just did so well that my focus kind of switched to FIFA. Not so much. There wasn't really an end goal, but when you see a lot of views and you're like, oh, this is quite cool, and you're getting all the interactions and stuff, you're like, oh, I'll just keep on going with that. That seems to be working, and people seem to enjoy it. And then after that, it just grew and grew and grew to the point where I'm at now.
So obviously from the first video that I clicked is you just screen recording of your amazing plays in Call of Duty. But when did you start bringing your personality into it? When did you start having your face or your voice and things?
So that was pretty much those clips were when I was first just posting just random stuff up, and then I remember I came and started doing Call of Duty videos, and I did a series called what was it called? How Do They Do It? And you used to be able to go into like the replay theater of Call of Duty, like games, and you used to be able to find some of these top players and see that they were posting these amazing scores, and they obviously weren't publishing these videos or anything. They were just playing games. And I basically just ripped their gameplay, and I started talking over what it was that they were doing in certain maps to sort of get those really high scores so that people could learn from them effectively. It just came down to spawn camping and how they got into the spawn camping situation the quickest. But yeah, that's when I started bringing my voice onto the channel. And then obviously when I was doing sort of like these sort of tutorials, those are very difficult unless you're really good at editing and you can get all of like the effects and you got a lot of text on screen. That's also when I was bringing on a lot of my own voice. It wasn't until, I can't really remember I think it must have been like midway through the FIFA 12 cycle that I started bringing my own face onto the channel. Okay. I was doing like Road to Glories and things like that. So just sort of like me playing my way through sort of like a FIFA game and talking about it the whole way through. It wasn't until later in the year that I started doing sort of face cam and things like that. Actually, it was so long ago. It's actually kind of difficult to remember exactly what made me bring face cam to the channel. I think it was probably just a natural evolution that I started looking around and seeing other people that were starting to put their own faces onto their channel, and I thought, well, maybe that's something I should be looking to do. And I think it was probably a good decision at the time, because I think that's what people wanted from channels at the time, was to see like people that they could then relate to.
So you had sort of like an evolution. You started out posting videos just to be able to record and show off the cool things you're accomplishing, to then teaching people how to do things and doing tutorials, to sort of casting pros videos and talking about how they do it. So what prompted you to start taking it more seriously and to do these tutorial videos and things like that? So
I finished university, and I remember at university, I was drifting along. I was making a couple of these YouTube videos. I remember the first day I looked at my my AdSense revenue, and I'd seen that I'd made £1, and I turned to my mate and I was like, I have made £1 from playing FIFA today. This is amazing. And then by the end of university, I was making maybe £100 to £200 a month or something like that. And at university, that's a lot of money, because I was like, I can go on as many nights out as I want. This is amazing. But I had my head screwed on. I knew that wasn't enough money to be able to then go out and sort of, create an actual job out of it. So my plan was to finish university, go get a job and move to London, which is what I did. I went and got a job in recruitment, in HR recruitment, actually. And I lasted there a grand total of about 3 months. The whole time I was sort of splitting my time. In the evenings, I'd get back at 6, 7 or 8 or something like that. And I'd be making videos and then uploading them. And while I was at work, I was always on my social medias. Like I wasn't really doing it justice. And I think that the managers at that recruitment company kind of said, you're not putting your entire focus into this. I don't think it's really working out between us. And I agreed. I was like, why would I because at that point I had even grown a little bit further from where I'd been before. And I don't know, it wasn't like I was making a lot of money, but it was like I was making enough money to probably just about pay bills. And I could see and other channels at that time were starting to grow quite quickly. And I could see that there was an opportunity for me to also be part of that group of people that grew at the same sort of speed. And I remember sitting down and speaking to my mum. In fact, that it was a Friday night when we had this discussion, and I had this with my managers at the recruitment firm. And I came out and I was like, I felt liberated, because it's a strange feeling to have effectively lost your job and come away feeling good about it. I was like, I feel like I've got a fresh start, because I felt like in that job that it just wasn't for me. And I remember I went to the barbers, I went and got a haircut, and I got like a really, really crazy haircut, I think, at the time. And I went home and I made a video that was that said, I've quit my job, I'm doing YouTube full time. And that video just took off. And a lot of people actually were like, wow, because there wasn't many people that were talking about doing that at the time, I don't think. So yeah, at that point I was like, okay, I needed to shave off my expenses. So I moved back home. I spoke to my mum. She was like, in fact, my mum and dad, and they were like, what are you planning? What is your plan? And I said, listen, this is, I've got a bit of a business plan here. It's a little bit rough around the edges. Let me walk you through it. If I can do this, this, and this with the expected growth that I can see potentially coming, this is where I could be in a year's time. And thankfully, they were on board with it. I think they were at their wits' end. They were just like, when will we ever get rid of this kid? Because before uni, I was like in my bedroom playing computer games until 6 o'clock in the morning. I think they were just like on board with anything that I was passionate with that would have got me out of the house. So I spoke to them, and they were kind of like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen is he's going to be living here for another year or something like that, and he'll have to go get another job. But they kind of supported me at the same time. And
nice.
And it kind of allowed me to sort of like really push forwards as well, to kind of prove them wrong as well. Like, not prove them wrong, but to say, as a sort of like thanks to putting your trust in me, I will show you that I can get what I've said, the results that I've said. And thank God I did, because that's when the channel really started to like actually take off and start doing really, really well. So.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So why was it so important to you to make this succeed? You got your job after college. You obviously cared about your degree, mm-hmm. and you're just focused on your platform even at your job. So what was driving you? Like what made it so that you were just so unstoppable for just moving forward with your passion?
So one thing that I've always taken away from going and trying stuff, and I've tried a lot of different jobs and different avenues over the years. One of the things that I really kind of came away from each of those experiences with was, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. It was kind of like a checklist of stuff that I don't want to do. Now I've tried that, I don't like it. Now I've tried that, I don't like it. So I've just gone through and I checked everything off. And the only thing that I had been like passionate about and really enjoyed the whole time was YouTube. And I came to the point where I was like, right, wow, I've got to make this work. If I don't make this work, where do I go? Because my degree had taught me I didn't want to be a computer scientist. I realized I didn't want to go into a sales environment. I didn't want to go into like a factory environment. I didn't want to go into a retail environment. I'd done all of it. So
why was YouTube, you did this analysis about where your passion lies. So why were you so passionate about YouTube?
I mean, come on, look at it. It's just amazing, isn't it? Like, how many people can honestly sit there and say, I play a computer game for a living, which is effectively what I do. And like, I understood how fortunate I was to be in this position. Obviously, this all came through the viewers and stuff. Without them, that I wouldn't have been where I was. And I just knew that I had to just keep on pushing. Number one, to keep on making them happy. to bring on new people, and also for myself, because I knew that I wouldn't be as happy doing anything else out there. There was just no other, like, we all have to make money, and this was like the thing that I thought would be the most fun, the least like work. That has been one of my ethoses in my entire life, is to always try to work as little for as much money as possible, which is a bit of a backwards ethos to have. But
all right, so the main the main driving factor for you is just the fact that you can build a lifestyle around something that's fun for you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I can't see, me and my wife, we always say that I would be the worst person to be put into any sort of like hierarchical like employment structure, because I just don't do well listening to others' ideas. I'm very stubborn. I go with what I think is the best pretty much every avenue. So I just don't think that I just don't work well with others. So having sort of like being a one-man band with YouTube really actually does work out for me pretty well.
Okay. So as far as building a lifestyle around fun, making your streamers happy, making yourself happy, would you say is like the big premise for why you were so unstoppable from the beginning? Like you're just driving towards, like, I want to have fun. I want to have a fun lifestyle, and I want to help other people have fun at the same time.
Yeah, I think when I made that decision to stop doing the recruitment job and make YouTube my full-time thing, that was what I was thinking at that time. Sort of like, this is a great, fun, enjoyable like industry to go into, and I can make a success of it. There was a period where I ended up sort of like grouping with two other FIFA YouTubers, and at that stage it became more about competition between the three of us and everyone else who was doing FIFA, to really drive me forwards. And that was the biggest like growth that I've seen in my channel ever since I started, was because we were working together firstly, and also because we were also driven to grow to be one of the biggest channels in the FIFA community. And together we actually, I think there was a long period where we were the fastest growing channels on the entire of YouTube, bar maybe a few of the real, huge channels like Rotashaw and the Sidemen, etc. Like in the FIFA sort of like remit, we were the fastest growing, which was probably one of my proudest achievements, actually. I really
that's
really
huge. Congrats.
Yeah, and that was like a 6-month period, or maybe even a year. So very, very happy about that. But yeah, it was really good.
All right, so you started out going big because you were having fun, helping other people have fun at the same time, and then you had a period of time where the high competition really drove you to go even bigger with it, to keep going. So where you are today is, you're pretty established. You're making a lifestyle. Are you still having fun with FIFA, or what's it?
So I think this is one of the things that I've seen. Whereas during the maybe 13, 14, 15 sort of like FIFA franchises, there were a lot of big creators that were playing it, making regular videos. Those creators actually transitioned away from FIFA, and I think that they made a really good decision, because FIFA has definitely fallen on harder times. Although EA continually report like more profit every year, there isn't the same like influx and viewership, I don't think, on YouTube as there used to be maybe 3 to 4 years ago. So I've definitely seen like a plateauing in my channel. Not only that, but my passion for the game has somewhat subsided. They've definitely gone down a route of making the game more competitive, which is something I don't deal well with. I don't like playing competitive games. I like to just, mess about and have a bit more fun, and have a few serious edges on the side, maybe through the menus and whatever. And the whole sort of like franchise just changed when they brought in sort of like FUT Champions, and they brought in like esports, and the whole thing sort of changed. It changed from, you and your mates playing a game like a FIFA in your house, to hardened, sweaty, like horrible game pros and game mechanics going on to try and win at all costs kind of thing. And that sort of brought out a lot of new people into the scene. Like, it took it all in a different direction. Right. So now we had a split between the original people who are making the fun, sort of like in my opinion, more enjoyable content that was a bit more imaginative. And then you've got the sort of like the influx of pro players who are obviously amazing at the game, and they're giving out videos that are like tactics, advice, how to score free kicks, all of these different game mechanic elements. Yeah, it just I don't. For me personally, I'm getting older, and your interests change as you grow older.
Right.
And I'm definitely thinking of other avenues that I'm sort of moving into now.
That makes sense. So what would you consider as your driving force right now, making you unstoppable?
So it's the thing that I'm moving into. I'm moving into personal finance, investing, property. Those are the things that I'm looking at now. And I've already said that I'll be looking to actually start a separate YouTube channel this year to sort of like cover those things, because there is, I think, really poor education, especially in our education systems, that don't teach people how to, manage their money. And I feel like there's a big gap in the market that I can move into. It's something that I'm really interested in, and I'm kind of angry about that I was never taught this kind of stuff, because it was only like looking into it myself that I actually started to realize like what you can do with money, and all of these pitfalls you might have. And I think a lot of people are stuck in a system that they'll never escape from, and have to work until they're like 70 or 80 before they're able to retire. So
I like that. So you sort of started out, having fun, building a lifestyle, having fun, to having competition driving you, and now you're looking forward to having something that's more fulfilling, and you're sort of giving back to the world by sharing this knowledge about that you're learning through investing, and obviously helping yourself, because you're going to be learning it during the process.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one of the things that I've always identified about YouTube is that you can't be someone who's on the sidelines with whatever it is that you're making content about. You have to be an absolute fanatic, someone who literally is just absorbing information all day long. And if you're not like genuinely interested in the subject, your viewers will 100% be able to work that. It's very, very easy for people to see if you're not like enjoying it, or you're not actually that interested and you're just doing it as a day job. So I'm going to kind of think about kind of like splitting my time a bit more between my channels now, like between the finance channel, which obviously is just a sort of like an idea in my head at this time. It might not work out at all, and it might be a complete waste of time, but at least I'll have fun doing it, and I'll be learning whilst I'm doing it, and hopefully it'll help some people. So
very cool. So I know that you're creating a lot of content on FIFA, and even using this website called Qutee, QUTE.com. So can you tell us a little bit about maybe a quick spiel about Qutee, and tell us a little bit about like how you've interacted with your community on there?
Yeah, so Qutee's a website I started working with, I think maybe 3 years ago, I think it was. And it's a really interesting concept, actually. So it is, in short, kind of like a discussion forum where you can post up something, and then you can get like a whole load of comments about whatever topic you're discussing. Now, what's interesting about Qutee is it actually has loads of metrics involved, and it can condense everything that's being said in this chat into like graphs and like really quantitative information. It's really, really good. So you don't actually have to go through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of comments to read everything. It's all there given to you in like reports, and I can't remember what they're called, but when a certain word is said over and over again, I think it's like sentiment or something. The sentiment is captured, and it shows the words that kind of crop up over and over again. We've used it for me personally to find out more about what people want to get out of FIFA. For my own channel, what they want to see more, what they want to see changed in the game. We even did quite a fun little Qutee at one point where I worked with a company called Max Protect, and they offered to wrap my car, and we did it in like conjunction with Qutee. So I got all of my viewers to go to this Qutee and vote on the wrap that they wanted to have my car wrapped in. In hindsight, maybe I shouldn't have done that, because they went for the most blinged out, like sparkly paint thing that you've ever seen. And although it looks really cool, it's not. what would be the right word? It's not. It's pretty raw. It's pretty loud. So when I'm driving around in my purple/blue Range Rover, people do spot me, and maybe I should have gone for the stealth. But that was always, I think, admittedly, that was always going to happen. If you give it to the viewers, they're always going to go for the most out there sort of like design.
So you talked about how you've interacted with your community on there, and you've run these polls, and they've impacted your real life, as in wrapping your car and stuff. So how has listening to your audience impacted how you create content?
It's really nice because you get a much more genuine sort of like feedback from your audience, because they've obviously taken the time. It's not just going down into the comments, which are right there on YouTube, and just typing straight away what they think. They make the effort to make the jump to the website, and then they give you some really good sort of like information about what they want to see. Like, one of the things that I learned was that I think it's like there's a game mode within FIFA called Foot Champions, which played over the weekend, and I thought anyone who does anything to do with FIFA plays this game mode. I ran a poll and found out that 50% of people couldn't even qualify for it. So half my audience, half the people who are watching my videos, when I make a Foot Champions video, they're completely alienated because they can't even qualify to play it. So that was a big change. It made me think more about what my demographic was and who the people were that were watching my videos. And it allowed me to make, I think, more friendly content that wasn't so involved in the nitty-gritty of the game, because obviously it wasn't appealing to everyone, and kind of like definitely the newer people who are coming to YouTube to play FIFA or whatever, they were definitely not connecting with that content because they weren't even be able to play the mode that I was making a video about. Right.
So they've obviously impacted you, just knowing what kind of consumer they are or viewer they are. So how does it affect, or what, the people saying that you're creating these reports, getting this feedback on this game that you're passionate about, you've been playing forever, and they play it themselves, and then now they can give feedback, and then you're sending that feedback to EA, is my understanding?
Yes, yeah, we are, yeah. We're trying to, because there are so many, one of the biggest things, so we ran a QT, I think, a couple of years ago. One of the biggest things that people were unhappy about was the lack of communication between what people were saying and asking for and what EA were providing, and if they felt like they didn't have a voice. So this was a really good way of bridging that gap between EA and the people who play the game, because all of the reports that are being generated are being looked at by the EA staff, so they are being heard, even if they might not be choosing to act on it.
Yeah, it's amazing how much of a community you've built over the years. The fact that you can just run a QT, it's a completely different platform, and be getting so much feedback from that. That's really amazing that you've got a core community that will just move around with you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very lucky. What can I say?
So you've had a lot of listeners are struggling to share for themselves. So do you have any examples of maybe situations where you were maybe the first time you put your face on a video and you're worried to post it because of it'd be more vulnerable, or are there any barriers that you've had to overcome during your journey that you feel like other people might have get value from?
I mean, one of the things that I get asked a lot, so I either get asked about FIFA or I get asked about how to start YouTube. And one of the things, or one of the biggest sort of like things that people have to overcome is like being able to put themselves out there and open themselves up for criticism. And I know that better than anyone, especially if you've got any sort of like out there opinion, always going to split people that agree with you and the people that disagree with you. And it's always the people that disagree with you that are way more vocal, and you will 100% see the hateful comments over the good comments. There sometimes might be 10 good comments to every one bad one, and that one bad one will stick in your head. And it took me a long time I think probably why I didn't put my face on for maybe 6-7 months or something of doing YouTube was because of that hurdle that I knew I'd have to overcome. And it was scary, but it's one of those things that I have to tell everyone is it doesn't matter what you do in life, you will end up opening yourself up for criticism regardless of what you go into. What you have to learn is to trust in yourself and just ignore any sort of like because the amount of rubbish comments that are put on the internet is just overwhelming. So if you take note of all of them, you know, it's going to eat you alive. My advice for YouTube channels is just to go through and put a preset list of banned words into your chat, so they're blocked, and then they just go into a different folder, and you never even have to look at them. So, yeah, that's my advice on that one.
Nice. So you know, how did you overcome that? Like, how did you overcome the fear of this backlash, or you know, the what comes your way for being vulnerable, or the criticism that comes?
As I said, it is kind of a case of really trying to phase out the kind of negativity, especially if your videos are getting, you know, like 20,000, 30, it doesn't really matter how many views it's getting. If it's getting like 100,000 views or something, and you see like 5 bad comments that either attack you personally or say they don't agree with you, something like that, you've got to think that 5 out of 100,000 is just such a small drop in the ocean. And it's just a mindset that you just have to get into, to just basically put up a shield. You just put up a shield and just let everything just fly at you. It bounces back off, and that's it. And the quicker you like sort of build up that barrier, the easier you'll find it to continue doing YouTube and not getting yourself into sort of like a situation where it's like, oh, why does everyone hate me?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I like to ask this question when I've got guests, which is if you met someone on the street that is either a new YouTuber, they just started, or they're aspiring to start a YouTube channel, what would be the biggest, most impactful pieces of advice that you could share with this person, aside from what we just talked about?
Okay, so the easy thing to say is like the technical stuff. Get yourself a good camera, a good microphone, and have good quality. Like, if you haven't got good quality, you're just not going to make it, because no one's going to watch anything grainy nowadays. It's just not. It's not possible. That's the easy cop-out answer. The other one is to always make sure that you're passionate about what you're doing. Do not go and do something because you think it will get views, because at the end of the day, it probably won't, and it will demoralize you. You really have to just go for what you're passionate in, because then it doesn't actually matter if you're getting views or not, because you're doing it because you love it. So why does it matter if you're getting views or not? And even if, for example, I'm going to have to go through all of this again with this new channel that I opened up, I'm going to see, obviously, like very few people watching this channel, because the jump from FIFA to like property investment or whatever, it's not going to be like a big amount of people. But I'll take every one of those comments I get on that new channel will probably equate to like, you know, 50 comments on my FIFA channel, because I'm now super interested in that. And yeah, FIFA's just taking a little bit of a backseat. I'm not saying I don't like FIFA anymore. It's just like after 8 to 9 years of play, you kind of get stuck in the same loop that you feel like you've been doing for a long time. That
makes a lot of sense. So let's say you meet a YouTuber that's established, maybe they have a couple 100,000 subscribers at this point. What would be some advice that you can share with them as far as maybe some secret sauce or things that you're doing differently that might be able to help them out?
So one of the things that I think people need to do nowadays is go and educate themselves. YouTube, when I started, was a case of post anything and it will probably get some views, because no one really knows what they want to watch or how the YouTube algorithm works. Now, this is a huge industry. People are out there to make money. You will be swamped. You will not be able to do anything unless you are smart on what's going on and what makes videos take off, go viral, because at the end of the day, it's the viral videos that you're after, because that brings you to a new audience, brings in new subscribers, and will take your channel to the next level. Realistically, you can continually create content for the 200,000 odd subscribers that you've got already, but you won't grow because you're just entertaining those people. It's not until you start pushing yourself to make those viral videos to take your channel to the next level. And that's only going to happen by you understanding what happens with the YouTube algorithm and how your video goes viral in the first place. So the thing is, I can't actually answer that question, because I don't know. They change the YouTube algorithm so frequently that half the time I don't know what's going on. So if I get a viral video, I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, there was a period where that period where I was growing super quick, that I understood everything in the YouTube algorithm. I knew what made your video more likely to go viral. how to trigger it, little tricks and tips that you could do. Like if you liked your video after 24 hours, it would inject a whole load of new viewers, but that doesn't work anymore. There's a whole load of things that you used to be able to do. I mean, even like, I think it's even a month ago, they changed it again. So if you spent a lot of time in the first 10 minutes or something like that of a video being live, that you could go and respond to comments, like comments, etc. And that would actually push your video into more searches and more people would end up watching it. But that's even changed. So yeah, continue. It's a case of continually educating yourself to understand what's going on, to take you to that next level.
Great advice. That's all great advice. So from like a very high level, whatever you're comfortable with, do you mind sharing sort of the sources of income that you're able to generate with your platform? Because there's a lot of people that question, how is this person making a living? Like, how are you making a living? Doing what you're doing? Is it coming from the ad revenue, or are you running a Patreon and things like that? So very high level. You don't have to go in detail, but whatever you're comfortable with sharing.
I mean, I'm happy to share. I think I'm one of the people that has definitely not diversified as much as others, and I regret not doing that. I kind of got happy and sat on it, and actually now I've come to regret that. But the main ways I make money through YouTube is obviously ad revenue. That's the biggest one. Every month, you get your check from YouTube based on however many views you've got, and then the multiple of whatever your CPM is worth. Unfortunately, I'm in the gaming industry, which is relatively low in comparison to other sectors. But that's fine because, we work with what we're given. Gaming is just what I wanted to do. So the YouTube ad revenue, it makes up probably I'd say about 2/3 to 3/4 of my income. And then outside of that, there's brand deals, which, come around every so often. I promote certain websites, and that probably makes up another, 1/4 to 1/3 of the revenue. And then there's, the odd bits and bobs here and there. I live streamed on Twitch for quite a while. And obviously you've got a whole load of different revenue sources in that on its own. You've got donations, you've got subscriptions with either Twitch Prime or with money, or you've got the ad revenue as well for those that don't subscribe. And yeah, so that was another income source, but I've kind of moved away a little bit from Twitch recently, just because of my focus shifting and Twitch is something that's so time intensive that I wanted to start spending that time elsewhere.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. That gives a lot of insight for people. So before I open the floor to let you just share more about your platform, maybe how people can find you or how you prefer they connect with you, do you have any last words for our listeners, knowing the type of audience that they are, as far as the maybe struggling to start sharing, or people that are sharing but maybe could be sharing at a larger level?
For those that aren't sharing, start sharing. It takes that would be one of the biggest hurdles that most people will have to overcome, is to just start. But once you start, it's kind of infectious and you'll just keep on going. So for those who haven't started, just start. It's as simple as that. Whether that's posting YouTube videos, whether that's tweeting, putting up Instagram pictures, Instagram stories, I don't know, whatever the social platform is that you're using, just start. Because once you've started, you'll start understanding the experience you'll gain from just posting will be invaluable to you. You might have all these ideas in your head of how you should or what you need to post to do really well, but until you start posting and you start getting feedback from those people who are looking at you, watching you, etc., you're not going to know really, because you think what you might think is right might not be right for other people or for your audience, or it might not be translating well to them. For those that are maybe have started and looking to go to the next level, collaborations, that for me, that was the biggest thing that got me to a decent size, to be honest, is working with other people who share audiences with me. And this is relative for everyone. So if you've got, 30 followers on Twitter, go and have like a little post with someone else who has 30 followers on Twitter. If you gain one, you've just gained 3% more readership for your channel. And that's kind of how it works. And like, if you've got 100, look for someone else who's got 100. Obviously, everyone's looking for that bone, the big fish to come in and be like, oh, he's got like 10 million subscribers. I've done a video with him. My life is made. But that's just not going to happen. So I think people are so aware of how powerful their channels are that you're not going to see that kind of collaboration until you're at least pulling some sort of similar viewership to kind of make it a reciprocal sort of relationship with that person.
Makes a lot of sense. Well, Tom, I definitely appreciate you coming on here and sharing your journey and your why and all these tips with us today. I'd like to open the floor for you to share more about your platform, maybe your new YouTube channel, how people can be, updated on when that's coming out, or and just keep in mind that anything you share here, and I'll include all the links to all those pages on the show notes of this episode on my website.
Okay, cool. So best way to get hold of me, Capgun Tom is my handle for pretty much everything. My YouTube, my Twitter, my Instagram. Twitter is probably the best place if you're looking for updates about what I'm doing, because posting on Twitter is super easy. I post a lot of Instagram stories about my day and what I've had for lunch most of the time. So if you're interested in that, then feel free to follow me on Instagram. And then as for the new channel, which isn't yet created, I would recommend that you probably follow me on Twitter, because I'll definitely be posting a lot of stuff on there. In fact, all of my socials I'll be posting on there as and when that's running. And that I have my first investment property completing by the end of this month. So that will be the first video that goes up on the channel. So super excited about that.
Very exciting. Awesome. Well, thanks again for coming on here and sharing with us. I hope you have a great start to your 2020.
Yeah, and, thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me on. It's been interesting talking. It's made me think about stuff that I wasn't originally thinking about. Like, now I might go away and have a bit of a think about all the stuff we've talked about today.
Nice. Well, if you ever need to dive into it, or just privately or anything, just let me know. I'd be happy to help you explore things.
Definitely.
Then, before I let you go, I like to ask for feedback, because I'm still newer to podcasting relatively. So do you have any feedback for how this podcast went, or any thoughts?
I think it was good. Yeah, I think that your questions were good. They were deep, but not so deep that you gave me enough space to wiggle a bit if I didn't really want to answer too directly about the question, like the whole how much, like where do your revenue sources come from. That's fine to talk about, but like I don't really like to talk about the numbers too much, which I think is a British thing. I think it's very much a British thing not to want to talk about your income, because my parents were always like, oh, we're not telling you how much money we earn. So that's sort of like come across from them. But yeah, I think it's been good. And maybe just I think for me personally, I like to ramble quite a lot. So maybe a bit more cutting in and driving the podcast a bit more to just get us to maybe whatever information you're hoping to extract.
Yeah, awesome. I appreciate the constructive feedback. Well, I think we're good. Thanks so much for coming on here.
Well, thank you very much for having me, and thanks for watching, everybody.
Yeah, sure.
Bye.
Bye.